Hi everybody, welcome to ArtDay. My name is Sarah, I'm the artist behind Pinselgeschichten, and today that I'm filming this, it's a Monday, it's grey outside, it's raining, and blah. Things are blah. I'm not really drawn towards a painting or drawing project today. Also no art journal mixed media thing. So I thought, well, I always say pamper your soul, do things that you like, that you're drawn to. And I think it's totally fine that I do the same thing. Hence, I thought, well, I'm just gonna color a bit today for pleasure, for fun, not for a show. I mean, yes, I'm filming a show here, but it's not that I film this with the intent to teach a certain thing like I do with Beyond the Lines, that I share a certain little nugget of information and have the whole coloring page be around that. It's more like, this is more like the pleasure kind of coloring. So I thought, well, let's just do that. I filmed Beyond the Lines, a full episode before I started this video. So I did the work. Now I can do play. And I thought, I haven't colored for pleasure in so long. It's been at least 4 weeks, if not more. I can't honestly remember when I colored last. It was this book, definitely. Because this is, excuse me, this is the book that I had on the desk next to me. And there are the projects that I'm working on. And this was sitting there for a while. I think it's been very early to November, maybe, that I colored last. So this is the Mythomorphia coloring book by Kirby Rosan's. It's his latest book. It came out, I think it was March this year. And I did only very few pages in this one so far. First one I did was this one, The Kraken. And I use mixed media things in some of my coloring books, not all of them. Some of them are purely colored pencil or purely watercolors, but some of them are mixed media. This one is mixed media. So this has neo colors and gouache and colored pencil. And then I colored another one, which I don't like, but hey, you don't have to like all of your work. This one was also done with neo colors, gel pens. Did I have colored pencils in here? No, it was just the neo colors and gel pens on this one. And this part here is colored pencil because that is what Daniel colored. Daniel always colors one little tiny bit in the Kirby Rosan's books. So on this one here, he had the spyglass. And on the one that I'm working on currently, he's gonna color the candle. So this is the page that I'm currently working on. The background was done with neo colors, and this one, the Stag, is done with polychromos colored pencils. And I'm just gonna continue to color today and well, pamper my soul, because that's important. I do have written down here which colors I used on the Stag, just to remember things. So when the blog post will be up for this one, I will have included the neo color crayon number thing, as well as these colors here that I used on the Stag before, even if I don't use them anymore. This one took me so far about almost 2 hours, so maybe an hour and 45 minutes, just the Stag, to layer him up. And like I had said, I used the polychromos. So I'm going to work with them some more. And get these done. Now, the book comes with a page that says which myth they are all from. And this one is the white stag, and what you have to find is the candle. So there's hidden things in there, hidden objects or something. Can you find these items, artifacts, and creatures in the book? Yes, we can, of course. And that is the candle that is on the white stag. Now, you could say, hey, Sarah, this is not white, this is definitely brown. Brown, correct. You are absolutely right. I like to change things up. And what I saw when I saw this stag wasn't the white stag. I saw the one with the golden antlers. There is a fairy tale. I think it comes from Russia. At least the film that I watched as a kid is a Russian movie. And it is about the fairy tale of the stag with the golden antlers. So I thought, ha, I'm definitely gonna make that. Because, well, I very much relate to that movie. It says stag gold reflection overall 183. So I have to find pencil 183 because that is what I used as the reflection thing here on the fur. That is 183. So I'm definitely gonna use this. And I'm just going to start with the antlers here and just color them in. Now, this weekend I also got the new art box, and the theme was shimmer, and there were fine tech pearlescent shimmery colors there. And I didn't feel like painting something with those. Also some papers came with it, as you just saw. So there are different kinds of colors, and they're handmade in Germany by Fine-Tech. Okay, and I do have Arabic gold there. So I'm thinking that, so this is watercolor, and I'm thinking that I might have a little bit of that shimmer on top once I have penciled everything in and just have the shimmer on top. I could also use the golden wink of Stella, but that I find sometimes changes the color underneath. It just overlays it, and I don't have a clear wink of Stella, so this one would just sit on top of the colored pencil. Excuse me. So I am just going to start with the colored pencil work underneath and shade everything to the point that I want, and then lay maybe watercolor shimmer color on top. I also have the Kuretake shimmery pearlescent colors, watercolors, so I haven't decided yet which one I'm going to use, but I know that I will have shimmer on top. Now, this is the golden color underneath, but I also need a lighter tone, so I will use the cream color for that. And I also need a quite dark color for the darkest shades, and for that I want to have... Do I want the green gold? Let's test you. Not really. Not really. I want... Sorry, I'm yawning. Whew. Yeah, I'm gonna take you. You are a brown ochre. So I'm having a yellow ochre, a brown ochre, and a cream. And that will be the main colors for all the twigs, not the leaves and flowers and such. I haven't decided yet what I'm gonna do with those. But I will take care of the antlers, so the wooden part. You're actually, they're all good. They're sharp enough. And then I'm just gonna see how far I get before I have the maximum of 2 hours on this video here. I already talked for 11 minutes. I'm just gonna see what I'm gonna do, how far I get, if I maybe have a part 2 or something next week. We'll see how far I get, and then I can decide what I want to do. But I just felt like I wanted to well, pamper my soul today. It's not that I'm having a bad day, not at all. Actually, I slept well. I watched Outlander this morning before filming while having my first coffee. So that was awesome. But yeah, when it comes to creativity and deciding what project I want to do, what I feel drawn to, what I want to do, it was all just very blah. Not bad in the sense of everything's awful. Not at all. It's just blah, which I personally find way more irritating than having a bad day and well, not being maybe inspired, or because you're dealing with something obviously, or you have other stuff to do and you just don't have the time and the patience to do something. I find that way less irritating because I kind of know where it comes from, what the reason is. But those blah days, they irritate me a lot. And it doesn't have anything to do with my current situation, I think, because I have them even when, well, I'm dealing with nothing. I still have those days. I think everybody has, so I'm not too concerned. But they irritate me every so often. I'm like, why? It feels like I'm wasting time, you know? But well, that's life, I guess. So I'm just layering up these 3 colors, going back and forth, having the darkest color here for the shadowy parts. And just color. I find that coloring soothes my soul, so when I have to calm down, when I want to think about things, when I want to, well, deal with stuff, I find coloring helps. I also just do it for fun, not only to feel better, but I find that it really helps to soothe my soul. It's probably because, well, aside from the studies that were released saying that it lowers your blood pressure and such, aside from that, I think I really respond to it because it deals with something that I truly love no matter what, and that is color. So I am one of those people that associates colors with certain things, like certain colors with certain things, meaning They influence my mood a lot. And you can see my mood in the choice of color that I have, that I use, colors that I use in certain, or in paintings, or also colorings, drawings. It all applies pretty much to the same thing. The colors I choose do, of course, reflect the object that I have on my piece of art. But it also reflects my mood, my mental health. I seem to gravitate towards warm colors, certain shades of warm colors when I'm okay, and when I have a light and fluffy soul, and when I'm not dealing with some major thing. And I seem to gravitate towards certain shades of purple and turquoise, green and blue when I'm dealing with something, when I'm, well, not all sunny and happy and well, but when I go through stuff. So this painting here, so far, is in a good stage, because warm colors, all the warm colors, this is what I usually like to work with when I'm feeling fine. So I definitely started this painting, or this piece here, when I felt fine. It doesn't matter, by the way, what my favorite shades of a color are. So for example, I really like cold brown, like a Van Dyke or a walnut brown. I prefer those to the warm shades. But they are hardly ever my main color in a piece of art. Usually I use browns a lot for shading, and I just like to shade with cold brown. That's just me. But there's the overall feeling, the overall thing of a page when I tend to use colder tones, or certain tones that I usually don't use a lot, aquas and teals and such, then I'm usually not in the greatest mental state. And I don't know if everybody does that, if everybody chooses their colors or gravitates towards colors depending on their mood and on what they are dealing with in life. But I'm one of those people. I learned that a while ago. And then I think there's people that always gravitate towards the same colors, because it's just their favorite colors or their favorite shades of a color. And I wonder, maybe if you would like to let me know, do you have a thing like that going on? Do you see something similar, or maybe exactly the same thing happening to you as well, that when you are dealing with stuff and you're maybe not in the greatest mood or the greatest mental state, that you are, well, finding yourself using certain colors that you would usually maybe not use so often for a piece of art. I'm really curious if you have something similar going on. And that doesn't mean, by the way, that I'm not using all the other colors that I have to use to make the piece of art work with shading and such. So I definitely also separate the colors that I like and that I want to use in that certain moment, and that pretty much, well, reflect my mental state. And the colors that go with something to make a certain piece of art cohesive and such. So I definitely separate the two, and I'm definitely using, excuse me, using the colors that go well with each other, no matter what mental state I'm in, if I gravitate towards them or not. I'm definitely going to use what works for a piece of art, but I find it like when let's take a flower. I'm sorry for stammering and stuttering here, but I'm pretty much just blah. I'm just talking here while I color, and I'm talking out loud what I think about. So coming back to the colors, say I'm drawing or painting, coloring, whatever, a flower that, say, a rose, for example, that comes in different kinds of shades in real life. So I could choose a yellow, a white, a cream, pink, purple, red, all of the colors that roses come in, and that they are available on at the market. So even black roses or blue or whatever, you know. If I am in a great mental state, I would definitely go for warm yellow, warm orange with a little bit of apricot, so a cooler shade of orange for the cold-warm balance. If I would maybe not be in such a great mental state, I would go for a cold red. So something like a crimson, for example. That would be something I would go for as the main color. I would still shade with the accordant colors then. So for the cold red, I would go for blue and purple as a shading color. For the orange yellow one, I would go with a warm blue and a bit of a cold brown to shade. But it would still look well with the color combo and the way I shade and such, but just the main overall color that I would use on, say, that rose would be different depending on my mood and my mental state. So that is where I find that I gravitate towards different shades depending on how well I am. So I'm definitely stressed out currently. I mean, it's not a secret if you watched the recent taco clocks that I'm currently not in the greatest, easiest, fluffiest mood, and that I'm dealing with stuff. So I, by the way, brought in a burnt umber, which is also a cold tone, but I needed a bit of a little more of a darker tone. The, what was it called? The brown ochre was not dark enough for some of those grooves in here. So I'm still not feeling bad giving this a mainly warm tone, this whole Stag page. But would I start on a blank page now? I would definitely go for different colors, different shades. I would maybe go for a white stag and have lots of cold blues, which I hardly ever use, or very little only. At least, especially when they're mid-tones. I hardly ever use those. But yeah, I'm weird like that with colors. I wonder if you have something similar. Maybe in a different area, not maybe the colors, but maybe something else that you'd gravitate towards a certain supply, a certain material, certain size of artwork maybe. I would just like to know if you find that some part in your artwork, in your creative projects, is associated and connected with your mental state. And if you can say, oh, I don't know, well, maybe have a little bit of a project and just observe. See how you feel in the near future, if you are changing things up when maybe you have a rough week. I don't know. I would love to know if sorry, if you have something like that as well. And it could be that this is kind of weird. I'm sorry about that, but I am very reflective in the way I, well, lead life, how I judge things, how I make sense of the world. I'm always looking, always listening. And I find the oddest things out about, well, myself, because I'm just observing and I'm not judging why I do something. I just realize I do something and I try to make sense of it. So, meaning I observe a bit more and a bit more on when something occurs, when I want to do something, what is the situation when I feel this way, when I want to do that thing. I just like to look at that, because once I either can make sense of something, meaning I can see some sort of a pattern or a reason why I do something, it's less weird for one, and also less scary, because you can predict things that will happen, how you handle things, how you like things. Well, it gives you some sort of control. And I seem to thrive on, well, knowing things in the sense of they're not just a miracle or they're fate or they're just given. But if I can understand them and dissect them and still make sense of something, it's less daunting and scary. And it's less overwhelming when something happens, even the bad things. And it feels like I'm not losing control over a situation. I can handle things better, not be too overwhelmed or stuck on something, or just I don't want to say helpless. That's not the thing, but when you account something to fate, it for one might give you the feeling that you can't change anything, so why should you try and put in the effort and run against a lot of walls, maybe. That could be quite soothing, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it's very soothing and very healthy for a little while, but I don't like to stay in that state and sit in that mental state when I try to figure something out, because it feels lazy for one. And it feels like you're not in control, or I'm not in control of something. And though some decisions in a lifetime might be total crap, and you would maybe decide differently on some things in hindsight, it's still your life, you're in charge. You can regret something, that's fine, but it's not to the point that someone did something to you, but it's just a situation that maybe, well, wasn't as perfect as you thought, or isn't as easily handled and such. So yeah. Long ramble. Get ready for the ramble. I find that I am especially reflective and looking inwards, even more than normal. And I'm looking inwards a lot, because, yeah, this is kind of like the core, the center. If that is not well balanced, let's put it this way, then things are usually not really smooth in my life. So I'm trying to make sure that I am mostly balanced in the way I feel, but you know, sometimes it's just a little more difficult. By looking inwards then and reflecting, I can dissect my way out of it and not feel like I'm spiraling. And that is actually something that I did when I was a kid. I just didn't realize that I looked inwards a lot. But it really became clear to me when I was diagnosed for the first time with a depressive episode. Doesn't mean that it was my first depression. That it was my first depressive episode. Doesn't mean that, but it was the first one diagnosed. So I looked a bit more into how I deal with depression and depressive episodes, and it's kind of a handling and also prevention tool for me now to look inwards and dissect and make sure that I'm balanced. Doesn't mean that I have to have the poofy funny life all the time and that I'm always just, I don't know, Mary Poppins flying from the sky and being magical. But I can prevent spiraling. Because it's not the right word. Spiraling is not the right word. But I can prevent dipping into the next little low point when I look inwards. And some people might find that I live in my head a lot. I do. That's some people can handle that well. Others, well, maybe have a little bit of trouble with it, which is, yeah, natural, I think. But this is just how I deal with the world. And I mean, that's another side note only. In the current times, and I'm not saying that one is better than the other, or that I'm judging about anybody's opinion or way to look at this big thing called depression. We are in our current society and current problems of society, the way that we evolve, in the way we treat each other. We are definitely lifting the stigma of depression, but it sometimes is to the point that it swings into the other way too much, that once you say you have a depressive episode, you can't do one step without everybody hovering. Because, well, we're getting educated now about how depression works, how far it can go, how deep and how dark that hole can be. But, well, we're kind of sometimes led down the way that we're because we are in a depressive episode, that how can we handle our life? This is so disruptive. People want to, of course, help, and, well, in that regard, sometimes decide for you instead of just supporting your decision. There's a lot of action around the depressive episode in a friend circle or family also, where before the recent education, people kind of shied away and maybe left you to your own devices in such an episode because they were not educated about how to handle it and how to be supportive, and maybe just be, well, afraid or, I don't know, overwhelmed. Probably a lot of overwhelming things happening when you find out that your kid or your spouse or your parents have a major depressive episode. Instead of shying away and leaving people to figure stuff out, now it's more like, I'm in your business. I'm up in your business because I read about depression and I know exactly I read how you must feel like. And that is weird. I mean, I'm absolutely appreciative and grateful that society finally learned that it is necessary to take away the stigma and to understand how people feel in a depression, what it could feel like. Not every depressive episode of every person feels the same. But yeah, it's we're still not there, people, to, well, understand how to, well, deal with this ominous thing that we lack words to describe. That's one thing that I find, that we as humanity in our different languages, we have to create new words, because it is almost impossible to correctly describe things with the words that we currently have. Because the word numb does not mean numb only, for example. And the way the word roller coaster or the word sad, dark, they all mean more than the word only means. My sharpener sounds weird. So we need new words, maybe. And I'm totally rambling. And my sharpener wants to kill my pencils. That is not the way I want this to happen here. So yeah. My sharpener doesn't like me. There we go. And if you ask yourself why I was going on and rambling about depression and such, it's, well, because I'm currently not in the greatest mental state, and I have to make sure that I stay well, or as well as I can, through some difficult times. Everybody has to make sure in their life, but the first thing, or one of the first things, doctors let you know when you come to them and you're diagnosed with a depressive episode, is that, hey, this is just an episode, but it's very likely that you're gonna have a second or a third or a fourth one in your life if you have one of them. So it's like you get the idea of, hey, just do not only take care of you now, but take care of you all the time, every day, for the rest of your life, because you are maybe prone to, well, have another episode. So I'm currently, with also the coloring here, making sure that I'm staying healthy. And there is a difference between a healthy mental state and a difficult one. So just because I'm currently fighting a battle doesn't mean that I'm not still in a healthy mental state. I'm just preventing myself from spiraling. So you get you develop tools and a very sensitive sensor for your own health, mental health, once you had one of those major episodes. And that actually helps you out to prevent further episodes, at least it does for me, or to minimize them, meaning making it a very, very mild episode and not a major heavy one. And the golden antlers are coming together. I'm using the line work, by the way, those nooks and crannies here on the wooden antlers. I'm using those to place my darker shades to not have the antlers look flat. And I'm using the yellow ochre as my main tone and the excuse me, and the cream color as my highlight pretty much on these antlers. And again, this is just the underpainting, undercoloring pretty much. Even the dark parts here will shimmer when I have gone over it with the watercolor. But that will be something I'm probably gonna do at the very end. I'm probably just gonna color the whole page first and then maybe go, and I'm pretty much treating it like gel pens. Gel pens are something that I'm also using at the very end of a major section or the whole page. So I think I'm going to do the same thing with those watercolor shimmer things. Just remember where I want to put them. And if I work on something very large or over a longer period of time, I definitely write things down to remember. For example, the pencil numbers or something, if I cannot keep the supplies open and in use all the time. So I have to put all the pencils together once I'm finished with the video today, because I might need the table space for something else. So to not forget, whoops, what colors I used and what I wanted to do where my light source comes from, all those kinds of things. I do have notepads around me to remember things and note things in. For example, I do have one for the Mouse Guard coloring book, because there are recurring characters that I want to color with reoccurring colors. So I write down what colors of what material I used in what book for what character, so that I just have to look it up when I color another one of those pages, instead of trying to figure out, okay, was that Neo color or was that a Inktense page that I used this one on and such. So just to make things easier for me, I just write things down. I mean, I'm a lister. I do list a lot of things just to make space in my memory. People always say to me, how can you remember that? Why do you remember that? Because I make space in my brain, because I write other things down that I can then delete on my hard drive. in my head and make space for other things to remember. That's just how I operate. I know that other people don't, but I do. Okay. I'm not entirely sure yet how I want to color the leaves and such. If I want to have them golden as well, or maybe not. I don't know, because there's also birds in here and butterflies. Because the stag in the fairy tale just has normal antlers, but instead of them being brown, they're golden. There are no leaves and no nothing on those antlers. But I don't know yet. I don't know. We'll see. I think that by the time that I have the antlers done and have the rest of the surroundings, the flora and fauna and whatever down here, then I will definitely have a good idea of what I want those leaves to look like. And though I usually come to any kind of project with at least a rough idea of what I want to have and what I want to achieve and what I want to do, I let myself jump around things to figure out what exactly it is that I want, or what I think would work best, what a page in a coloring book or a drawing or a painting or something needs. So I don't have to work on something on a given page until it's done. I definitely allow myself to jump around to figure out what I want a certain thing to look like. In this case, there's also flowers in here, so the blossoms and the leaves on these antlers. But yeah. It is details like that and things like that that I skip to make sure that my coloring page is cohesive in the end, that it's not too busy, and that I don't have too many different colors. Because I usually go by maximum 5 major colors in a coloring page. Not talking about shades here. That's way more, but I do have brown and yellow, for example. 2 of them. Most times I go with 3, but I go maximum with 5. It all depends on how big a piece of art is. I'm sorry, I'm yawning. Whew. It all depends on the size and on the object that I'm drawing, coloring, whatever. All depends on that, but I never have more than 5 colors, main colors on a page. So Ouch. Sorry about that, but I need to have an eraser because this one here bugs me. Got out of the line too much and in a way that it bugged me, so I have to erase things. A little bit more of the cream. Okay, we're getting somewhere. And by the way, those pages always take time for me. I usually end up between 5 and 14 hours, depending on how big the book is and what supply I'm using. I mean, some Neo colors or watercolors Inktense, they are a little bit faster than colored pencils. Colored pencils is a very slow medium, at least when you apply more than one layer of color. But it always takes a long time to color them. Okay, let's go for the other one here. And like that, I'm just building up layers and layers and layers of colored pencil that will, in the end, make the antlers look pretty much as rich as the fur part of the stag. And now for the burnt umber. To get a bit of contrast going. I find it crucial pretty much when I do work on any kind of artwork, but especially when I work in a book. Doesn't mean coloring book only, but also in art journal books or magazine journals where I alter something. When I work in a book, I find it even more crucial than just working on a paper pad, that I turn my artwork to be comfortable with working on it and not get any weird cramps and such when I work, especially when sometimes, not very often, but sometimes I do work on one of those pages all in one go. So I'm sitting there for 5 to 14 hours. You bet I will have cramps otherwise if I don't make sure that I rest my hand comfortably when I work. It's essential. Dun, dun, dun. And there I got quiet again, 'cause living in my head. Sheesh. Sometimes I just really realize that when I'm in post-production of these videos, when I see how long I actually was silent. It's those moments when I put in some underlaying music. I don't realize that all the time when I'm filming. It's just, yeah, I'm in my head. And for the last little part on this side of the page, and then I can move to the other one. A little bit of shading here. Yep. First page of the 2 is done. Oh, now we're in 10 minutes. Okay. So I think it's about an hour that I colored because I was talking at the beginning, like without coloring. So let's see. There we go. I need a sip of tea. I had my sip of tea. Okay, so now I'm moving to the other side. I always have a cardstock behind the page that I'm working on, by the way, because sometimes I have to apply a bit of pressure and I don't want any indentations on the next side, if I can help it. So just to make sure, I always have a bit of cardstock behind my coloring pages. I'm wondering in the back of my head, by the way, because hey, you live in your head. Yes, I do. Do you also have this coloring book? Have you colored this particular page already, or are you looking for inspiration? If you have this book, do you like it? Which pages have you already colored? Things like that. I'm curious, so I would love to hear from you in the comment section. Let me know. Need to sharpen my pencils again. Oops, sorry. Didn't want to throw things onto the audio equipment. Okay. Alrighto, let's see if I can finish the antlers within the next 45 minutes, because that is pretty much how much time I still got left on my timer. I'm trying to make it happen, but I don't want to rush it to the point that I'm maybe screwing this up, so I have to be reasonably fast only. I'm going over it with the light yellow now, because I don't want to lose the highlights, and especially here, I mean, yeah, there's shadow because things are overhead, so they block the light, but I don't want to get too dark towards the end. I want to keep, oh, there's more. I want to keep my highlights. So I have to make sure that I put in the cream color and that I don't forget to put it in. There's and here on these parts I just really go with the pattern that is provided by Kirby. I'm just going over these lines to darken them up. Just a little more here, here. And that was a big chunk. Next chunk coming up. I'm gonna definitely have music run over this particular part here. I can already feel it, how silent I am. Sorry guys, but that's something that I find too, that happens to me. And I think that's quite normal, because we're actually no multitaskers. I can work way faster, efficient, and get to where I want to be in a painting process or coloring, drawing, whatever it is, it's all the same. When I don't talk while I work, I can actually get things done in half of the time. That's also one point. I've thought about it. So far I have not decided that I would do something like that. But I was thinking, well, maybe especially for these long videos here, I want to have a live stream, want to have a conversation with people while I work. But I find it very difficult to actually work and read a screen and talk. So I can do talking and working now, at least to a certain point. I managed to learn that, and I think I do fairly well, at least 60% of the time. But if there is something like a screen to read, I'm not sure if I could get something done in a reasonable amount of time besides reading a screen, talking to people, chatting back and forth. And show as much on a project as I do in one of these videos. It would be a little more talkative probably and less working, which is fine. It's just a question if I want to do something like that. And so far I have not found it in myself to say yes. So that's why I'm still doing the plain old videos, pre-recording a week earlier, so that I have time for post-production and such, and not just having a live stream, which would be easier and way faster on the post-production side of things, but yeah, it would be way slower to actually do things. I wonder, do you... What do you prefer? Do you prefer live streams or do you prefer recorded video? Would really be very grateful if you could let me know. Because I think both have their place and both are cool for different things. I really wonder, what's your preference? What do you find yourself watching more, or what do you like more? It's yeah, I would love to know. The last bit, it's a huge bit of this antler here, but it's the last bit. Of these antlers, of the golden parts. And after that I would definitely stop the video, and you can leave me a comment as well in the comment section below saying if you want to see another part of this coloring. Would you like me to continue next week? I would love to know. Making sure that I don't lose my highlights. Now I can go on with the brown ochre. Just having a bit of a shadow here and there. At least a medium dark shadow. I will bring in the burnt umber. And some more of the burnt umber. Details, contrast. Such a good thing. Just a few more details and the antlers are done. Just a bit more here, also here. And here. A little bit more under the bird. So here. And now I need my eraser once more, because I'm having a bit of pencil where it's not supposed to go. I'm just quickly cleaning that up. And then I'm done for today. This is 2 hours of soul pampering, at least in my book. And I hope you enjoyed watching along. Again, I would love to hear from you in the comment section. I raised a couple of questions during this video, so I would love to know if you are inclined to leave me a message there. And I will see you next week. Please let me know if you want to see more of this page, how I color it, where I'm going with it. I would definitely be happy to film that for you. And thank you. Ooh, that was loud. Sorry. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Take good care. Do something that pampers your soul. It's very important. Talked about it. I hope I made sense while explaining too. Just blah, just pretty much just talk vomited it out there. But that's what I gotta do sometimes to, well, make sense of something. It's just talk it out. So have fun, take good care, happy week, and the blog post will be up by now with close-up photos and those 4 pencils that I used, plus the ones that I used on the Stag before. So I'm going to leave you now. Have fun, take good care, bye.